Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show, Season 4, Episode 16. I'm your host, Chris Daly, and today I have a special guest. I guess I say that all the time, but I really think it. This is a coach from, a town that could be called Titletown. Yes, Gilmer, Texas. Coach Matt Turner. I will introduce you to him right after this. Hey, I want to give a big thank you to this season's title sponsor, Mecca Sportswear, where they are all about celebrating achievement. They're honored that so many high schools, colleges, and universities have chosen Mecca's products to represent their institutions. Mecca supplies you with the very best in custom letter jackets, chenille letters, patches, blankets, banners, pins, certificates, and much more to motivate and celebrate achievement in athletics, academics, or the arts. They create high-quality custom awards that will fit your budget. To see why so many great schools around Texas choose Mecca Sportswear, call Sherry Armstrong or Billy Armstrong at 210-651-6592. Mecca Sportswear, the premier suppliers of letter jackets and awards for over 40 years. Hey, I want to introduce you to our newest sponsor. It is 99 Pledges. And if you're looking for a quick and easy way to raise a bunch of money for your sports team, 99 Pledges is the best way for football teams and booster clubs to raise the most money with the least amount of effort. Donors can donate online. Each player gets their own donation page that they can share with their friends and family all over the country, like grandparents in Florida by email, text, Facebook, or any of the social media outlets. By going online with 99 Pledges, it's easy to spread the word about your fundraiser, keep everyone involved and informed. Because of this, 99 Pledges has seen teams raise over $30,000. And teams like the Katy Tigers have exceeded their fundraising goal. That's the best part. Teams keep an average of 95% of what they raise. Players don't have to go door to door or track down donations. They can save all that energy for where it counts, on the gridiron. Check them out at 99pledges.com. They are an excellent organization. You're going to be so glad that your next fundraiser is through these guys. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Matt Turner from Gilmer High School to the show. Coach, how are you doing today?
Yes, I'm doing great.
Great. So as you know, as much as I would love to talk about the Buckeyes, we're not going to focus on them. We're instead going to focus on you. And if you could, let's jump back to your earliest interaction with football. How did you get introduced to football?
Probably my memory of it, there's a lot of, but, I can remember going to games with my dad, even as a young little guy, and I was raised in the Midwest. I can remember we lived in Waterloo, Iowa, and I remember we lived right across from the high school stadium. So, and the Waterloo had two high schools, at West and East. They both shared that field, on Friday nights there was always a game there. So I can remember sitting in the bleachers with Dad watching those games. Man, it was a time you spent with your dad. You were excited about it. I remember that, and then I lived in Omaha, Nebraska. My dad moved because of his job, and we lived in Nebraska during the Nebraska Cornhusker time, and so I'm a big Nebraska Cornhusker fan. Of course, I went there when I was in the 5th grade, all the way till I was about a junior in high school, and so I was kind of indoctrinated there. Of course, that's the Big Red and all that, and Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne, and and
that was the time when Nebraska was stealing all our kids.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good football out of Texas that played at the University of Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was those years. Football became a big deal. I could see myself as wanting to be a part of that, and that's kind of those were the early things in my life that really impacted me. And of course, then I played, and I was very fortunate to play for some good coaches. And
nice.
So that was good.
So if you could, tell me when you figured out you wanted to be a coach.
Really, I always, when I had graduated high school and went, I played junior college baseball up in Iowa at Southwest Community College, a little junior college there in the town that I graduated from high school. As I entered it, I wanted to keep playing baseball, but I was pretty realistic. I knew I probably wasn't going to keep playing much longer. I was going to play pretty much through my college days and that.
Right.
I really just knew then I wanted to teach and coach. It was, from the very beginning. I remember when they first signed me up for classes and that. Yeah, he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to coach." He said, "Great, and so what do you want to teach?" And then we started doing all that. I was a math teacher and physical education and all that good stuff. So from really the beginning, as I entered college, that's kind of where I saw myself.
Nice. So now take me from college to today. Give me stop by stop every job you've had. Okay.
When I graduated of course, I went to junior college for 2 years. Transferred to Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. Played ball there for 2 years. And got my my bachelor's degree and master's degree there actually. When I graduated, I took a job in a small town just outside Jonesboro called Marktree, Arkansas, and started there. Coached every sport. Basketball, football, basketball, track, baseball. If you did it, I coached it.
Yeah.
And so I began there. Got married my first year to my wife, and so we coached there one more year. Then after 2 years at Mark Trey, I took a job at Poplar Bluff, Missouri, kind of not really in the Boot Heel, but it's close. That southeast corner of Missouri, which was probably an hour and a half from where I was there at Mark Tree. And I worked with a guy by the name of George Short. George was a Texan. He was born and raised in San Antonio. Worked in San Antonio, and he'd worked with guys like Dennis Parker, D.W. Rutledge, Tom Thrower. These were all names that, I would hear. And, of course, they didn't mean a lot to me then. But he'd worked with all these guys in San Antonio. And after 2 years there, George's wife was ready to be back in Texas. They were Texans, and they're born and raised. And so he left Poplar Bluff, went back to San Antonio. When he did, he said, well, I'd always talked to him about wanting to coach and teach in Texas. I'd never been in Texas. Didn't have a relative in Texas. I'd never done it, but I'd always was, there was an interest there. And he said, well, if you want to take an opportunity, there's an opportunity in Marshall, Texas. There's a guy coaching there now by the name of Dennis Parker.
Yeah.
And you'll learn football, and you'll learn it the way you need to learn it. And if this is what you're really wanting to do, that's where you need to start. And you'll start at the bottom, and you'll just work your way up. But he said, you'll be glad you did it. And so Jill and I, my wife, we loaded up. We came to Marshall, Texas in 86. And I was an assistant junior high coach in Marshall, Texas. And so I worked in Marshall there under Dennis. That was a great experience there, and really grew as a coach. And it was Dennis did a tremendous job and coached with a lot of unbelievable coaches that spun off all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I coached there 5 years, and Danny Long took the job at Jacksonville, from that staff. I went with Danny and was in Jacksonville for 13 years with Danny. And, of course, Jeff Traylor worked with us over there at Jacksonville. and of course came back and got the job in his hometown of Gilmer. And then I got that opportunity to work with Jeff, and I've been here, gosh, it's over 15 years. It's been since 2003, so what is that? Yeah, it's been it's 15 to 16 years here in Gilmer. So that's my track, and so, yeah, I'm an East Texan. You know, this is home to me. This is all I've known since 1986.
Nice. And you were offensive coordinator during that great run that Gilmer had. Talk about the transition to taking on the big chair and filling those shoes of Jeff Traylor.
Well, you know, Jeff was obviously outstanding at what he did. So, I mean, it was, and obviously it was a transition because obviously being a head coach is being a head coach. It has its own particular set of things that you have to be able to do, and those aren't necessarily the things that you need to be doing when you're the coordinator. You need to be coordinating and all that. So there was the obvious adjustments that you had to make. And, you know, it was just Jeff had done a really good job of putting the program in place, you know, and I was lucky to be a part of that and putting them and establishing. So really the deal was just trying to continue to do what we had done. You know, I mean, you know, in terms of the things we believe in, we still do that. So, you know, those things are, whether you win or lose, there's just certain principles that we believe in and do, and we feel like if you do them well enough and often enough, the rest of it will kind of take care of itself. So we've tried to stay true to the things we believe. For us, you know, perfect effort, selfless attack, do it right and do it again, or would be 4 axioms that, you know, we live and die by. So that's what we still do. You know, we haven't changed that. You know, so that was to me that was the biggest thing I understood of. I can't be Jeff Traylor. He is who he is.
Right.
I know what we believe. We'll continue to believe that.
Nice. And you mentioned George Short was the one who said you need to get to Texas. So that's a pretty big influence. If you could pull out a couple coaches that have been influential in your career and maybe some of the things that you learned from them.
Well, like I said, George, of course, was huge, you know, because, I mean, he was really kind of the first guy I was under that, you know, I really began to learn. And then, of course, he opened the door for the opportunity. And then, of course, Dennis Parker would be another one. He gave the opportunity in Marshall. And Dennis, of course, had come from Judson. At that time, he'd just left Judson. You know, I think they just won a state championship. He'd been in Marshall a year or two before I got there. And, I mean, he had a program, you know, and and so that's where I learned program. And, of course, I learned it from the ground up. I learned it, you know, I coached at the junior high, so I learned I did that. I worked in the 9th grade. I worked as a JV coach. I worked my way up that system. So, you know, a lot of people nowadays, you know, they don't want to do any of that. I'm so grateful I did all of that because I have such an appreciation for every part of a program and what it takes from the bottom up, which it does. And Dennis, I'm always grateful for that. And again, you know, Dennis, the Christian influence that, you know, that Dennis, you know, instilled and taught as part of the program, I was always very grateful for because, I mean, to me, that's really the what we're called to do is point people to Christ. So that began there, and I saw the value of that. Really, you know, for much of my early career, I thought, you know, I'm trying to do this to make a difference. Well, really, it was God was trying to make the difference. He was using me to do it, you know, and that's a whole different mindset. But Dennis began, you know, I began to see that in what I learned as I was under Dennis. And then, of course, Danny Long gave me the opportunity to kind of step out and be in a much bigger role as far as responsibility. And Danny was great in terms of just allowing you to, you know, to take what we knew and expand on it and grow and learn. And, you know, he gave you the freedom to do that, but he held true to the certain tenets that we believed in. And so he was huge for me in terms of my growth. And then Jeff Traylor, you know, Jeff was, you know, a younger guy than me, but, you know, was a guy that had a very clear vision of what he wanted to do. And with the program that basically our program, and he brought it over here to Gilmer, and just the opportunities he gave me to be a part of helping him, you know, continue. He'd already been here a couple of years, so he'd done a lot of really real hard work of getting it established. Continuing to build the program and learn and grow as a coach, and then ultimately, like I said, point athletes to the Lord.
Right. You mentioned the word growth a lot, and one thing I've seen over the years is that this transition of a new coach from focusing on the X's and O's, as they say, to the Jimmies and Joes. Talk about that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, just when your focus can be pretty narrow when you're an assistant coach, because I mean you've got a piece of the pie that you're responsible for, and you need to be all into that, and that's what you need to be doing as an assistant coach. As the head coach, you've got to be a little more big picture. You have to. You're riding herd over the whole thing. You're trying to make sure the vision is clear for everyone that is working on all those small pieces, and you're helping each of those people grow, in their positions, giving them the ability to grow and expand and do their part as part of building your program and investing in the athletes and that. So you're much more of a visionary in terms of seeing that the big picture is being, if you, for lack of a better word, being painted, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That all the ones that are putting their brush to the painting are doing what they need to do it, and you're helping them grow in that.
Right, and you also talked about, I don't know if it's paying your dues, but working your way up through the junior high system and learning as you go. As a new head coach now, I shouldn't say new, but as a head coach now, do you look for that in a new hire when it's a young guy that you have to pay your dues, or does that not factor into the decision?
Well, there's a lot of things that factor into the decision, but that sure doesn't hurt. In other words, if I'm a person that's had that kind of experience, that's always especially if where they've been, I feel like they were doing things the right way. Pretty big. That's huge, because I mean I just can appreciate it, because that was my experience, and I know that you have a sense of program and how important it is from the bottom up, which it is, and I don't know that if you haven't had that experience, if you totally can appreciate it. Quite honestly, like everything else in life, you have to kind of experience them to appreciate the value of them. So I wouldn't say it has to be that way when hiring someone, but I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. When I look, I like to see, if you've had those kind of experiences, to me, I think those have been pretty valuable.
Definitely. And speaking of the community itself, when they've had great success like Gilmer has, is that more difficult for you as the AD? Like, they expect that kind of success every single year. How do you deal with that?
Well, the deal is our people expect our kids to play and be their very best. Now, we know they all want to win, too, every game. You don't always do that. But our community's expectation is what the best kids, which I appreciate. That's a standard we like to live by. So, and it's good. I hate to be where they didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So grateful. Our community wants us to be the very best we can be, and they're like all fans. They want to win every game just like we do. It doesn't happen. So we are very process oriented people. For us, we realize all the winning and that's always a byproduct of doing things the right way, and there's a lot of variables. Some of you control, some of them you don't. But so we just focus on that, and then you can't worry about other things other than that, and the young men deserve that you're going to bring your best every day to help them be their best, and that's what we try to do. And we, if we make changes in our program, it's always with that in mind. How is this making the athlete a better person, a better athlete, a better man? That's it. We're doing a lot more than just preparing guys to win a football game. We're hopefully preparing them for a life where they're going to be people of impact, and they're going to make differences, and they're going to be God's instruments in their communities and in their homes and everywhere else.
Amen. Now you have a unique perspective, being that you spent a good deal of time out of the state. So how do you explain the difference of how seriously Texas takes their foot as some other places where it may be the tire salesman doing it after work?
Right. Well, I mean, you've pretty well defined it. I mean, it's just a different. I mean, it's the expectations just different, and then the involvement, of the community and the family. I mean, a football game in Gilmer is a community event. I mean, and they are, and I just say that in Gilmer, most Texas towns.
Yeah.
It's bands, it's twirlers, drill team, faculty, student body. I mean, cheerleaders. I mean, you got all these parts. It's all part, and which is a wonderful thing. What an incredible thing, in Gilmer, Texas on a Friday night. I mean, they get to come out, and we all get together, and we get to, play and twirl and cheer and, all those things, and you're celebrating your kids, and you get to watch them excel and do things that they love, and they're trying to be their very best at. It's pretty amazing. So from that standpoint, I'm not saying that doesn't happen out of state. It does to an extent, probably to it. In most places, not near to the level it does here, without a doubt.
Amen, definitely. And so finally, Coach, if you're talking to a fresh-faced young college graduate all set to change the world in the football scene, what advice would you give him? Well,
if he's wanting to be a football coach, if he's that guy that wants to become a football coach, again, try to get connected with his, a program that represents the things you believe, and don't be afraid to start at the very bottom. In fact, be encouraged to start there. Grow in that system, learn it. It takes time, and I'm not saying everybody has to follow exactly the path I would, but I'm just saying I think it was a good one. I think you grow up learning it level by level. It gives you time to grow. It gives you time to establish and get the framework of what that program is about to kind of help you start out. You don't have to just jump out there by yourself and go, okay, now what do I think about all this? You can use the value of being a part of that program and go, well, this is what we think about this. And so it can help you begin to establish, I think, as a coach who eventually wants to be a guy that is a head coach or an athletic director that runs a program. It just gives you the foundation you need to know, I know why I believe what I believe, and I know why I believe what I believe, because over 37 years, the things that I believe, I've seen them work. I feel like it's right. I feel like what we're doing is the right thing. And don't get me wrong, we're always looking at things and tweaking it and feeling like we can make it better. But you're a young guy, get involved, get connected with a program where you feel like that's going on. And then just don't be worried about being the head coach right away or the coordinator or whatever. Don't worry about titles. Just get in there and go to work. And the rest of it will kind of take care of itself. If that's what you're wanting, the opportunity is going to present itself, and you'll have established the foundation that you want. When that time comes, that you'll be ready. You'll be ready to do it because you've got a good foundation.
I love it. Coach Matt Turner, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing a little bit of your story.
Great. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. All right, once again, I want to thank Coach Matt Turner for sitting down, sharing a little bit of his stories. I want to thank our sponsors, especially ETex Communications from right there in Gilmer, area code 903-797-4357. They offer digital TV, internet, phone, you name it, everything you need when it comes to communications. That's ETex Communications, 903-797-4357. Do us a favor and support these sponsors because they help us make sure this show comes out to you each and every week. Until next time, I'm Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game.
This show is brought to you by the book, All I Need to Know I Learned from My Texas High School Football Coach. a handbook of wisdom for parents, young people, and yes, even coaches. Head over to www.learnedfromcoach.com and order your copy to support sharing the stories of these great coaches and leaders. That's learnedfromcoach.com.